It's a great honor for me to have this kind of an event. This is the kind of thing that, or one of the many things that I was hoping to be able to accomplish, to bring together poets from many different circles and have them read together as a kind of anthology, an anthological reading of various kinds of poets in our community. So this is very exciting for me. I want to make a couple of little points here. Please, if you would, clap at the end of every set so that we don't have to wait for poems. And again, as you were told earlier, stand close to the microphone, as close as you feel comfortable, I guess. And also, many of the poets reading tonight have starving children, so if you would, please buy some of their books. They're in the back on the table there. Okay, so first poet I would like to introduce is Elaine Fowler Palencia. She's the author of 6 books of fiction, 4 poetry chapbooks, and a forthcoming book of Civil War history. She's the moderator of the Red Herring Fiction Workshop and a founding member of the Quintessential Poets. Please welcome Elaine to the stand.
Thank you, Will, and Rachel, and Carol. I see some faces that are not on the poster. So there were actual people here to listen to poetry that don't have to be. Thank you for coming out on such a night. I'm going to do a kind of very quick retrospective of what I've been doing as a poet. I was a fiction writer for many years before I began writing poetry in a search to find a way of writing about our life with our son Andrew, who has severe mental and physical disabilities. So that was the origin of my first chapbook from Grex Press, and I'm going to read a very old poem from that, from when he was a little boy. It's called Daddy Longlegs. His mind trapped forever in a dream of shadows, my son hunts bugs. All the day long, along the house foundations, mewling gently, he pulls up grass, lets daylight under bricks to watch the bugs scurry. One day, while I'm sunning, he opens his palm to me and smiles. There sit 5 gray buttons, pulsating with surprise at their loss of legs. How like a god he is, my thoughtless child. And I kept tracking him through another chapbook called The Dailiness of It, which is on clearance back there. And so I'll read a very short poem from later in his life. He's 42 now. Keeping him at home. This is the sum of all I know. Take the newborn calf in your arms the first day, and every day thereafter, and someday you will be able to lift the bull. Meanwhile, the dilemma will grow horns. The other part of my writing life is about being from Appalachia and not being from it anymore. So there's a lot of exile and return themes. So I'm going to read the title poem from Going Places, also for sale back there, that's those kind of poems. Going Places. The summer he turned 18 in 1903, Grandpa ventured north from Gallia County to work on a farm outside Springfield, Ohio, 150 miles from home. He returned with money in his pockets to marry and buy a backbreak hill farm across the river in West Virginia. Talked about the trip the rest of his life. The big fields, the reapers, the combines, the tedders for haying. He came home confirmed in his belief that hard work was the answer. It had taken him places. He was now a man who'd seen the world. But if he really applied himself to clearing the pastures, timbering, milking, haying, and raising corn, he would never have to leave home again. Our family was part of the Appalachia outmigration that left. He went back home. And then a lot of you may have seen the wonderful poetry initiative of the poems on the electronic billboard here, and some of you have had your poems up there. So some of you didn't see those poems, so I'd like to read the one that Will was kind enough to put up of mine, and it is from the forthcoming chapbook that is not here, from Main Street Rag Press, but you can get it at an advanced discount on their website. And all those poems are about writing. This is called, I Attempt to Repurpose the Home Place Long After It's Gone. Sonnets don't need much ground, but they're delicate, so I plant them in the shady old perennial beds. Short stories go in by the shed where the annuals used to add detail. Renga along the fence so it can twine up. Haiku each in its clay pot on the porch. In the barn lot, I till the richly manured soil and put in an epic. Near the back steps, I'm rotating pantoums and sestinas. As for the novel I sowed down in the bottom last spring, it jumped the creek, spread up the next hill, and vanished into the woods where the wild oats nest. Then I'll stay down home for a minute and read. I guess they're called persona poems now, but they, when Robert Browning was doing them, they were called dramatic monologues. This one is My Mother's Kitchen. I can't work with other people in my kitchen. It's my bailiwick. But if you have to help, snap these beans. Yes, he does say the awfulest things. Always has. Then the next day, he acts like nothing happened. I've never been able to understand it. I come from good, dull people who don't act like that. No, I'm not afraid. No, don't ask me that question. I'm fine. Oh, Lord God, I don't want to talk about this. It makes me tired. And anyway, after he rakes me over the coals, he's right ashamed of himself the next day. There's more good in him than bad. But if I try to come back at him, he says, my mother told you, and you married me anyway. What his mother said was, she was afraid he'd murder somebody. I don't know what gets into him. All I ever wanted was a decent house and to live graciously. At my age now, all I want is to be left alone, just sit in my big chair with a cup of coffee and a piece of jam cake. I said, don't worry about me. I've got you and the grandchildren. This too shall pass. Just don't sell those TVA bonds I gave you. You hear me? A woman needs to have her own money. And don't bother with cleaning up. I can do it once I get my breath. If there's one thing I've learned in this life, it's that nobody can load another person's dishwasher. And then this is my last poem. It's still wet behind the ears, very new, but I'm still on the same subject of exile. It's called Moving On. For generations, my people have died in a mailbox or in a phone call from a distant hospital or once from a detective in Middletown, Ohio. We wandered from France to the Low Countries, to Ireland, to America, or from Scotland to Ireland to America, or from England to indentured Virginia. We peeled off the great wagon road as it went south, stopping on remote plots of land for a few decades to clear uneven ground, farm, and ply a trade, weaving, blacksmithing, teaching, preaching, distilling, before pushing on. We couldn't afford to stay, or were restless for better, venturing farther and farther away from each other to try our luck in post-Civil War Missouri and Arkansas, in the industrial Midwest, where they called us briar hoppers, in tourist Florida, rural California. Quakers and Presbyterians became Methodists and Baptists and Holy Rollers, suspicious of the new, yet compelled to seek out the edges of our known world, permanent immigrants in a country where we have never quite felt at home, but which has given us enduring memories of having once belonged somewhere. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Elaine. Now, it is my pleasure to announce or to welcome Ann Hart, who is a member of the CU Poetry Group. Ann's work can be found in the Bangor Literary Journal, the Monterey Poetry Review, rattle.com, Crows on a Line, for sale in the back, and more. She was the 2016 winner of the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Poetry on the Bus and is an editor for CU Haiku. Please welcome Ann Hart.
Wow, that makes me sound fancy. I was looking at these guys. Who are these guys, Carol?
Tip that up so you were for sure.
Who are these men behind me?
The Buseys.
Oh, they're very intimidating. Hello, Buseys. Okay. So it's February, so it's time for love poems. And every time I try to write a love poem, it goes wrong. And you'll notice my husband's not here, but he is all well. I always preface this poem with he is well. Bone broth. White skin shows above a green collar that sits below a midsummer tan. Graying hair cut short for convenience, for control. A small white joint nooked like an oyster, the top of his spine. Neurons meet bone, meet flesh, meet life. She sees it as he bends over broth, wordlessly eating spoon by spoon, his back blank. She turns away, debones the chicken. First the leg, then thighs, moving up, moving meat, her knife work brisk, certain, with practiced hands. She cuts into breast, wings, her mind drifts to better times, early days, recalls caresses, surprise kisses on her nape, removes the neck, makes a notch, digs deeper. Remembers unexplained late work nights, remembers lipstick that wasn't hers, removes the heart, removes the rib, remembers slights, remembers cruelties, feels the heft of the knife in her hand, thinks of expectations and realizations, keeps cutting, removes the spine, remembers the steel, feels the grip, in crimson hands, remembers his back turned, remember his back is turned. Thank you. A little song on hysteria. We call a person not in place disembodied. A Chicago basement breathless. Michigan nervous, Mississippi fragrant with magnolia fruit. Montana mixed with stars and mathematics causes symptoms that leave even the bravest soul lost in the middle of yet another active shooter drill. Do you remember? Rumpelstiltskin stomped his way to the center of the earth, while the queen waited quietly for the king's next unbearable task. Plato called it an animal within an animal roaming. But what did he know of the heaviness of a bloodless abdomen, or the joy of dropping a wet carcass into a turkey fryer and waiting for the fire engines to come? Another attempt at a love poem that kind of goes badly. Uranian skin. Because your joy is unrelenting, beyond my limitation, its beauty ruptures on my unsettled soul like drying henna, flaking in blackened bits off my Uranian skin. Can I be more clear? I want my heart to open, but my need for precision keeps me from feeling exact. Contorting, I am a broken circle furling. My insufficiency concaves, defended by dragons, bitterness, and sarcasm. I shield my defenseless inner curve from the tender honey you offer, leaving your faultless hands bee-stung in tribute. So apparently I can't write love poems to people. So this is a love poem to a poem, epistle to a poem in a time of turbulence. Somewhere in the lacuna between William's rain-slicked wheelbarrow and Sappho's God-roused jealousy, you are conceived. Built of the bricks of circumstance and a bluebird's pulse, by tender submission and the grit of pear on the tongue. When you grieve your role in this world, believe you are just a placeholder, I say you are beyond the liminal, a space for the world to rush into and out of, like inundate waves on a full moon beach. Dear friend, pass through the weeds in the boneyard, trace the etchings on the gravestones, and like the cardinals outside my window who hear the hum of spring in the gentling wind, weave the future into the crook of a budding shrub. You hold these times suspended. You are the compressed lungs of a baby pushing to be born, a placeholder for the breath of life. Begin. Thank you. And this one's to a love poem to my daughter. Stay safe means I love you. 1. Listen, my daughter. Though snow covers field mice, ravenous hawks will perch along the highway, circle prairies, watch and wait for soft brown bodies to unburrow or ruffle the tops of drifts. In his hunger, the hawk will drop, flare his tail feathers to guide his descent. He will hit the snow with open talons, heedless of dangers that might lie beneath. 2. Today in the shower, I breathed in soap foam. The bitterness filled my mouth and nose, stung the back of my throat. This could be how it ends, I thought, imagining my pale body in the curve of the porcelain, the guilty soap melting away in the cooling spray. Who is the hawk in my story? The shower pouring down on me, the soap ripping my throat like a threatened hornet? 3. These natural soaps come in bundles of 3. I will put the juniper-scented one in your Christmas stocking. I will nestle it among the chocolates next to the new toothbrush and the Christmas kitten socks. When you leave, I will say, stay safe, and ask you to call when you get home. You will carry the stocking in one hand, your keys in the other, blades protruding between fisted fingers, and watch the sky. And the last one is a love poem to the morning, Abad. You gave me a dream I was flying. You swept the wind under my feet, lifted my body into the cloud-riddled sky of an early spring dawn. We hover over the agrarian world so richly ordered, so composed, and I wonder why you brought me here. Wait, you say, and conjure the sunrise to illuminate the fields below me until they are scattered over with pinks and pale lavenders, then glow with the cyan-tinted hues of pears and clear water. I am dazzled. I am breathless. Thank you.
Thank you, Anne, very much. Next, I would like to introduce Indrani Sengupta, who is a poet from Calcutta, India, currently braving Illinois weather. She received her MFA in poetry from Boise State University, and her work has appeared in the Colorado Review, the Southeast Review, Pank Magazine, and others. And she has been nominated for a Pushcart Prize. Please welcome Indrani Sengupta.
I'm glad I wore heels. Thank you so much for having me. Incubator. The doctor mistakes my hemorrhage for period blood. I believe her because she is a woman and because I have never died before and am not likely to start now. She reaches deep inside and counts the whorls in me. She asks me to appraise the pain from 1 to you cannot afford this. I must be histrionicking again, I say. When the yolk splits, it is almost deferential, not the usual chuck meat flung into milksop, but a piddling. It ambles 3 whole weeks of dizzy pacing, reworks the landscape in me, things I haven't had a chance to see or use or consider. It builds 6 trundling streets and names each for itself. It ornaments the trees. It throttles the trees. But I am not topography. I startle before mirrors. The male doctor says it is diet or else cancer. I blame the water, my mother, and God. Ectopic, which is the Greek for we do not have time to name this flood, but the men will bravely pause to do it. Oh, hapless planet, I am out of place in my body where I start pulling down my bare leg in the blue shock of a hospital bed. I am always in that place, and I am always of that body. The doctors show my boyfriend the red, hard ambit of me, then burn the Polaroids. I do not get to take my tube home to love on or maybe pickle like teeth. It is routine how women sometimes fisher, unbidden through no fault of God's own. No, I do not have a number, but let's call it 9. No, I do not have a word for this, only the nurse who keeps me vigil and repeats her children's names, like warding. I cant incantatory. Pardon me, pardon my exuviae, pardon as I count the whorls in ceiling tiles, my belly full with borrowed air. Tomorrow is for anyone but this now, this pocket time, this breath by breath demarked by curtain fell. Look at what I've grown. No lineage so long as the long, wet, witless piss tube, no name so loved as the unpronounceable machine. And me, I have not had time enough to earn the pride I lose in this as I learn to walk, to feed, to piss under attestation in full and piercing view. Pardon the nurse who asks, was this your first? Pardon the parson who offers God. Pardon me as I pardon you, as I rail and fail to pardon you, as I recant, incant, I can't do this, as I hand you teeth to brush my broodmare hair. In full and piercing view, what woman can't, what grown woman can't comb her own hair. Which squats over boiling pot of onions, fragrant with hyssop, a half papaya, a purpling onion. Crawfish we anesthetize in their sacral waters. So too I have not forsook my soil in days. From the bath I stew upon the etymology of catheter, of carrion. I have not forsook the blistering wall, glottic as God. I have not put my hair up like in the movies. One doctor says that services can be spontaneously painful. Aye, there's the rib. This tub that is not clawed enough for luxuriating, fragrant with cohosh, with quinine, with the shattered spines of apples, of apple grenades, women who make do with the long willowed arms of an improvised law. I skin an orange for my skin to leach like Bathory. I give water back its water. Note keeping. I am collecting all my lacks on the left. Lopsided with boreholes, I'll wander college streets after greeny college children, shoeless, tender-footed, hair like scarf, the unbecoming matron saint of the unbecome, spreading counsel and sprouting grafted children, rhizoid Mary. I am corralling all my locks to the left to remember where I earned them. I repeat, the fetus was on whatever side the appendix is not. Already I am forgetting. Healing is whenever the bone chill turns anecdotal, turns party trick. The telltale nubbin in umbiculus, the small reaching cerces shuddering across belly, the trouble with bikinis, with bathroom lighting, the many-handed hollow in me and no homunculi to show for, nothing right and nothing left. I cannot remember what I could not name, but the body cannot forget. Tendered woman giving. Here between the botany of wallpapers, their faint O'Keefery, I am famous. Tiles become as I step them, and soot moths know my lineal names. Myrtles work themselves into a fever, crying Vesta or profligate as I go by, work themselves into a crown. Already the house smells like me, which is to say it smells like nothing at all. So much unearned space and so few mirrors. A mirror which is a negotiation between where I stand and where he stands. The wallpaper which is $1.12 a yard. I thrift a cabinet and a withy knuckled into six-fingered star, and it is far too many borrowed things. He who does not help or cannot help. The asters trade me herbs for verbs, and I collect them in a book, prettied latinate. Sell the books roadside, buy him back from debtor's prison, then buy another mirror. On the outskirts, in the skirts, in the in-between step and skirt, I am radiant. The body heals beautifully into marbled hillocks and mother's beadwork and other things you'd never wish upon your body. The open book against my leg like a tourniquet, and always the slippage of womb from wound or wound from womb, and I am never sure what's worse. Unwatched, every on grows malevolent. When I look my shadow in the wall, our mouths disappear. No plant loves you. All plants are neurotypical. The fork-tipped, the false, the panicled, the scrambling vetchling buttonbush, the ash, and every oath of aster. No plant loves you, wants to merge its woolly filaments with the flexures of your palms, to be fondled in their Greeks, where their spines run suggestible. Tape measure around thigh, around waist, cinched in hand, you marvel at how much land to harbor a dead man. What is harvest but coaxing wine, dolled in your congenital furs, coaxing shit from grass, hands exalted while your neighbors watch you, watch them, watch the touch-me-nots who ask for neither voyeurs nor poetry. No plant wants to be wheedled into sisterhood or spangled dish, wants to comb your hair, like in that one dream where you cast off your skin, then gleam like bullion. Wants to inherit you as it was inherited by you. Maybe the flesh of you, maybe the ash or the oath of you. Last one. Bad practice. All selves are quartered, flayed, severed into fish, plated to be saved, sliced well beneath the belly's protrusion, can still wear bikinis if they want to. What even is a fallopian? Where does that word root from? What doctor named it for himself? Why did he insert his lineage into every woman's abdomen? He doesn't even have a woman's abdomen. I own no lampposts. I wouldn't wish to name another's lamppost after me. All its go unhad. All its are had indelibly. All bodies crater around the half-had it. All bodies are halved by it. Are all bodies like this body, or is this how this body craters around a March shadow? Are we made a grave for you? Did you scorch the earth in us when nothing grows in us? Not language, not love that isn't well rehearsed and reflexive, not language unborrowed from WebMD, not even our own fears, but every like woman's mimicked in our heaving. I named you for your father, for your mother. I didn't name you, but named the space around you, how my jaw widened to oblige you, how kingdoms fell to feed you, how the body turned to millet and collapsed into your jaw, how you spit me back up onto my own bare stomach. So much toddling for an unthing, a null thing, a grape too small to bear naming or be held. Thank you.
Thank you, Urbana. Thank you very much. Next, we're going to hear from Elizabeth Madras. Elizabeth is a poet, parent, musician, and English teacher. Her poems have been published most recently in Arsenic Lobster, another Chicago magazine, and the Madison Review. She is 1/3 of the band Moats. Please welcome Elizabeth Madras.
Hello. Thanks again for coming out on this fearsome night. As Lori Moore might have said, it's a night fit neither for beast nor vegetable. So I am starting with a love poem. This is a collaboration between me and Tom Waits, but Tom doesn't know about it. It's a found poem. I came across an interview with Tom Waits, and he was talking about his wife, and I just loved the way he was talking about her, so I searched out more interviews and found other moments where he talked about his wife. So this is mostly Tom Waits being interviewed, talking about his wife, and a little bit of me here and there too. I'm a lucky man. She's a certified cardiac nurse with a PhD in punk rock. She's a shiksa goddess, a trapeze artist. She can fix the truck, expert on the African violet and all that. She's out of this world. She's got the brains of a rocket scientist and the craft of a Dadaist boxer. She's a better poet than you and a bigger man than me. She makes a mean pan of cowboy coffee while I'm still blanket deep in fever dream. That's who you want to go into the woods with. Somebody who finishes your sentences for you, but better than you would have. And that's the nation where I live. Okay, this poem is called Self-Portrait with Prodigal Father. When you held your tongue in the guise of a wise monk, I was a chattering child. Laughter gathered to me like steel shavings to a magnet. You were rarely amused. Amid the twisting green scent of willow on the thick liquid muscle of the river, our rare moment of mutual serenity. Then you were lifted up and split apart by the awful beauty of a mislaid love, salvaged only by a brother's meaty hand clapping you on the back, many helpings of your sister's pine bark stew. Fast by my mother's side, I stood amazed at your errancy. I don't know how we survived that time, but when you returned to us, your heart had split. It spilt forth unimagined treasure, rose quartz, orange blossom honey, 150 mother of pearl buttons, peals of frank laughter. You uttered endearments I didn't know existed. Now I eye every slate gray rock, wonder what color might come from a well-aimed blow. So this poem originated, my best friend lives in Los Angeles, and she was in Urbana visiting, and she read one of my poems, and she said, "This poem's about me," which was the highest compliment I've ever received on a poem that I wrote. And I decided I want every poem I write to be about you and you and you. But anyway, I can't do that. But anyway, so I wrote a poem about her called "This Poem is About You." You stand in line and they don't see you. You tilt a little to the left. You are salt. You are a writer in a reader's body. You are a slipped thing in a caught thing's body. You can peel an apple in a wink. You can tongue-tie a cherry. You keep your hair clean and your nails clipped. You keep them laughing so they won't hurt you. You need to be able to see the sky from where you sit. You are mostly too far from most of your friends. You stand in line unseen, but not invisible. You hold off until 5 to show you don't have a problem. You tie your hair back because you know it's power. You are part of the more of your sum. Words will save you. You believe this. Okay, so the next 2 poems are from a chapbook that I've been working on for a while. It's called The Kingdom of Sleep, and it's about sleep and how wonderful it is when we can get it and what torture it is when we can't get it. And part of it takes place in this realm, the Kingdom of Sleep, and Somnus is the god of sleep, and Kronos is the god of time and rules and obligation and wakefulness. So this is Kronos versus Somnus. He is the god that grinds the gears. She is the god that waits. He is the god that pulses with light. She is the god that dims. He is the god that tightens tight. She is the god that slackens. He is the god that wants your mind. She is the god of breath. He is the God that smokes and smokes, cracking his knuckles of tar, cracking the arc of the grid like a whip. She is the God that won't come when called, sliding back into the river to whisper water. You must forget her to finally feel her wet embrace. She is the God that slips away. He is the God that counts. The 6 dreaming languages. Orthos, for the speaking of intuitive truths, for the recitation of obscure, unnameable grievances, for the revisiting of oaths and pledges previously recited without true comprehension. Tumulese, the tongue that carries heavy loads by land or by sea with motion intrinsic and undulant. The tongue that shows you the thing a thing is not and insistently reveals that it is, in essence, that thing. Min, for food talk, speeches employed in rituals of courtship and tales told along the road on journeys. Ubba, for speaking with loved ones who have the faces, bodies, smells, or ineffable auras of other unrelated persons. For speaking with and of loved ones no longer present in the world of waking, who visit the realm of rest. Slip tongue, the highest play of wordsmiths from every corner of the realm, the tongue of terrifying jokes and deep, confounding anecdotes. Swarmish, flee when you hear speech uttered in this tongue. Fly if you can. Okay, I have one more poem, and this poem is about emojis and grief. It's called Dark Scrolling. Where is the painting on black fingernail polish emoji? Where's the cupped hand making an armpit fart? Where's 3 angels slam dancing on the head of a pin? Where is resting fuck you face? Why no unicyclist with an umbrella emoji? Why no piss Christ? I mean, duh. Why no poison ivy? What? Do they want us to get poison ivy? Where's the heart squeezed with grief for a moment, but now I'm okay, but just wanted to let you know? Where's the heart with a grief knife stuck in, and it's still there, and I'm not sure when it's letting you up, and I just wanted you to know? Where's the heart laying down flat from basic exhaustion, and it's not your fault, or at least not only your fault. I'm just so tired, or my heart is. Where's fuck hearts? Who needs them? I would settle for a painting on dark blue fingernail polish emoji. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Now I would like to introduce to you.
I want to make a quick adjustment.
Okay.
Oh, it's all right. Wonderful readers, if you can, to the best of your ability, speak like directly into the mic. Directly. You got this.
Only for the folks in the way down. All of us, thank you.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Please welcome Kevin T. Hobbs. Kevin is a professional actor, filmmaker, writer, musician, and teaching artist hailing from Central Illinois. Kevin has appeared on movie screens and stages across the country. Kevin is also founder of the DOSE Foundation, a nonprofit whose mission is to ensure that the theater community becomes a more accurate mirror of the world in which we live, where he functions as the executive director. Currently, Kevin serves as the artistic director of the upcoming National August Wilson Monologue Competition for Central Illinois, for which the DOSE Foundation is the regional sponsor. Please welcome Kevin Hobbs.
Now I feel like a giant. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. So it is my honor and pleasure to be here with you this evening, along with the other esteemed poets. And, I couldn't quite decide the order of what I wanted to read, how I wanted to read it, until about 5 minutes ago. So I want to thank the poets that went before me for the inspiration. So I'm going to start out with one titled I Dreamt. Better. I slumbered peacefully deep within the warm bosom of benevolence, and sadness enveloped me because I had to leave. The thought of returning did nothing to ease the melancholy waters that flowed through my veins. Perhaps it is easier to perceive this as a goodbye and accept the possibility of never returning rather than confront the truth of missing what I need most. There are sorrows within the cracks of our smiles, and the lightest burdens carry a weight. Beauty is to be found in almost everything. Tears are a blessing, showing us a channel from our souls to the atmosphere. So I'm going to be reading some poems that I've never read out loud, like they have not seen air. So I hope that you enjoy them. This is called My Story. There, as I sat in the middle passage of my life, among the ruins of my ancestors' failed journeys, a thought ran through my spirit. It pushed through the fortified dam of indoctrinated traditionalism and flowed through my veins like a river of scalding hot water. And through the sheer emotional agony, I found myself purified in ways in which I had never experienced. Little by little, I discovered that many of the things I mistook for truth about myself were merely the muck and mire left by others who had passed through. Their tomorrow was not mine, and my presence in their yesterdays was fading in every millisecond that passed. And the sodium from tears cascaded down my earth-burnished face onto the curvature of my upper lip was as sweet as molasses to me within that moment. There was a great wailing within my soul, gnashing of teeth at the innermost parts of my ears. This is most assuredly the end of me, I thought, and it was. But the me that met its end was not the same me from whence my story began. For the first time in what seemed like millennia, I beheld and held myself. Promises long forgotten were unforgotten, and dreams that were destroyed long ago began to regenerate. And aloud I wondered why we never celebrate sunsets. This next poem is called Racing, and it is a meditation on equity. Racing back through history, racing back, running me, racing back, yesteryear flees. I run past days and into months. We run the race, but not in front. Not in front, all the way in the back, never the middle of the pack. No prizes, no medals, no trophies or ribbons. No reason to run but for the sake of living. Racing back towards history. Racing back, running me. Running back, racing on Greece. This race ruins more than just your feet. But I don't fly. When I was young, I burned my hand on a light bulb trying to make my fingers glow. Now as a man, I repeat the same act with the sun and my soul. As my baby eyes beheld my imagination's mythologies, here I stand older, wiser, but still trying to make them real within me. Casting myself in my fable as my very own savior, even though it's a trying task to have faith in a cape when you know underneath it lies so many failures. So last year, around August, I was I was reading about the history of slavery in the country because it was the 400th anniversary of when it began. And in August of 1619, a ship appeared on the horizon near Point Comfort, a coastal port in the English colony of Virginia. It carried more than 20 enslaved Africans who were sold to colonists. There's no aspect of this country that we live in that would be formed that has been untouched by the years of slavery that followed. This poem is called I Am the Black. I am the black that you were warned about, the darkness that wears a fuller mouth. I am the night which will not be subdued. Antiquity says that you are me and I am you. I am the golden cast iron you so consistently abuse, never losing its shape, leaving the earth confused. I am the black on which you built your dreams, the first eyes to notice the weakening of its seams. I am the obsidian tide which purifies, the penetrating condemnation that sees behind your eyes. I am the rich soil that brings forth diamonds and fruit, the provider of the world's treasures which everyone loots. I am your father and mother whom you never recognize, whose souls you wish to inhabit in every aspect colonize. I am the great mystery that fuels all your doubt, whose power increases sevenfold anytime hate seeks to snuff one of us out. I am the truth that you find whenever you scratch a lie, the ash that allows the phoenix to rise. I am the wisdom of nations and the notion you cannot circumvent, the ever-present ears that long to hear someone's repent. I am the black that you were warned about, the omnipresent entity when your sins find you out. So the last one is a poem I wrote about 4 years ago. Anybody familiar with the story of Khalif Browder? Well, Khalif Browder was arrested in the spring of 2010 at age 16 for a robbery he insisted that he did not commit. He spent more than 1,000 days on Rikers Island waiting for a trial that never happened. During that time, he endured about 2 years in solitary confinement, where he attempted to end his life several times. Once, in February of 2012, he ripped his bedsheet into strips, tied them together to create a noose, and tried to hang himself from the light fixture in his cell. He was released, but after being free for a couple of years, the demons grew too great, and at 12:15, on June 6th of 2015, he killed himself. And this poem, 12:15, A Suite for Khalif, is for him. Where you are now is hopefully better than here. All trees and no concrete, and you're smiling from ear to ear. They say they let you go, they can't say they didn't know. But a body without shackles doesn't equal a free soul. You weren't wrong, son, and they weren't right. What it was to see death as your only crack of light. And we may be strong, but we're not made of stone. Beneath this darkened veil, we're made of flesh and bone. At 12:15, the world got too cruel and mean. You just can't unsee the things that you've seen. So at 12:15, this world lost a piece, and we all got robbed when Khalif was deceived. What in the world are we to do when Amendment number 6 says justice will be speedy in a land where it barely exists? The grand jury was wrong, dancing the same song. The melody says that we're guilty until that's proven wrong. But if they do not care, then how the hell do we fare? If they do not care, then we cease to breathe air until righteousness explode like a ton of dynamite, a constant eclipse of the sun, and we'll struggle no more in the night. At 12:15, the world got too cruel and mean. You just can't unsee some of the things that you've seen. So at 12:15, this world lost a piece, and we all got robbed when Khalif was deceived. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Now it's an honor for me to introduce my friend and colleague in the pursuit of poetry, James O'Brien. I'm sorry, I'm looking for his life story here. Oh, here it is. Jim O'Brien is a founding member of CU Poetry. He lives and writes in East Central Illinois, occasionally publishing under the name of James Escher. He has also produced over 300 poems on demand with his typewriter for people at art shows around Illinois. Please welcome Jim O'Brien.
Hello, thanks for being here. I want to thank the Urbana Free Library and Will and Rachel for putting this together and assembling this fine lineup of poets. This community is fantastic because we have a lot of poets. It's a transient community, as you know, with the students, but as Will mentioned earlier with CU Poetry, it's a group that started 7 years ago this June, and we take pride that it's an open group. We provide a space where everyone has a voice. We come in and people come and go as they do in this town, but we've seen a lot of fine folks come and go on to do many things. Also, the Poets at the Post is a open mic we have that just hit our 3-year anniversary there on the second Monday of each month. Yeah, so another place. Thank you. Another place for a voice. So we call it Poets at the Post. All spoken word is welcome. Read stories, memoirs, phone book. I don't care. Just be there. And as far as CU Poetry, we've got some business cards at the back. If you want to get some contact info to look us up, drop in on our weekly workshop. You're more than welcome to. We also put out an anthology last year, which looks like this. If you're the first one to the table on the left at the back, you can check it out for free, courtesy of the Urbana Free Library, or you could purchase one. So I'm going to read a couple poems. As Will mentioned, I do, besides poems that I write for publication, I set up a typewriter, and Rachel's giving me the ear, so apologies to those in front. I'll set up a typewriter and type poems up for folks, and this is based off one I typed at an art show at a winery east of town. There's a woman with a tent, and she made these fabrics and had this dress with dragonflies hanging, and I typed a poem for her, and it changed my life. And it's called Dragonflies. Double-winged bodies on a green and blue dress draw me into the shade where said dress shimmies in what little breeze filters down through the trees. Lifting the hem so the dragonflies move up and down as if they could hover, or even fly off the dress on the hanger in this tent at the art fair where the woman with eyes on her skirt fans herself, wondering how it could be so hot so late in the year. She thinks about the coming winter, calculating how much cotton and dye she should buy for the next year, as if this is all she will need. And then that is actually the start of a trilogy, but I'm going to hold off on those because I'm trying to keep under 10 minutes. So these poems that we speak of, I'm going to read a couple of those. I set up with a typewriter, and I have a bookmark-sized card that I type these on and talk to you for a few minutes, see what you want the poem about. I was at an art show last year in Springfield, and this young woman, possibly high school senior, early college, this big camera, had been walking around, and she saw me and saw what I was doing, and I'm sitting there. I've got a typewriter on a table with 2 chairs and some information and a pack of tissues, because sometimes that's how these things go. And she thought, well, okay, I want a poem about that pack of tissues right there. I said, oh, child, please. So she sat down and I typed this up for her, and it was called Still Life with Tissues. One might expect apples in a bowl, or maybe a wine glass in a cabaret, but this was a half-empty travel pack of facial tissues. Or maybe it was half full. Is it the artist's place to judge, or merely to represent what they see and deliver it in oil or pastel? Or maybe film, a photographer wandering an art show, capturing images so beautiful, so lifelike, you can't help but tear up at the honesty and the tragedy of not having a Kleenex handy. And then I am going to read one more of those from a different show. So a young woman sat down, this nervous energy of a budding poet, but she wanted a poem about ghosts. And I said, really? And she said, yes, yes, yes. And then halfway through I stopped and asked her, who's your favorite poet? And she said, Emily Dickinson. And I said, okay, so Another World for Chloe. Just because some people don't believe in them doesn't mean they don't exist. What people believe is an unreliable measure of what is real. Over the years, people have believed in all kinds of crazy stuff, so why not ghosts? I'm not talking about some sheeted Casper Halloween ghost. I mean the real person who used to be here spirit. Maybe they died young, long ago when their house was new. Maybe the reason they passed through walls is because the house was remodeled since then, and that wall used to be a hallway. Maybe they're more afraid of us than we are of them. I'm sure Emily Dickinson would be horrified at what we have become. And any teachers in the house? Besides you, and you, and you, and you. Okay, so this one was just from Saturday over at Jill Miller's house, who actually was the dandelion, or the dragonfly poem. This woman sat down and said, I would like a poem about work. And she didn't look very enthusiastic about it and was nearing retirement age. And I said, okay, what do you do? She said, well, I'm a teacher. I'm like, oh, all right. And Tom Waits came up earlier. This it actually takes a little bit from his Disney Stay Awake contribution. Dig, dig, dig. Hi-ho, you know how it goes from there. Fairy tale mine workers will try to sing you into a whistle, but whistling doesn't help when you have a room full of kids waiting on your every move. You see them day in and day out and try to remember what you loved about this when it started, when it was a calling. Some days the love is still there. Other days you just feel like you're going deeper into the mine. No light, no canaries to warn you that the air is thinning. Just that drive inside your heart that leads you to swing that pick one more day, hoping for silver. And I would like to read 2 poems for my wife, who couldn't be here tonight. She's in both of them, go figure. I also listen to a lot of music, take inspiration from music, can't help it. This one's called Cadillac Ranch, which is a real place. Anybody familiar with it? It's in Arizona. I'm sorry, it's in Texas, outside of Amarillo. And my wife and I we weren't married yet, but we were on our way from LA to Champaign. Cadillac Ranch. We were between Arizona and Missouri on the Blue Highway, making our way from California to Illinois. New Mexico painted in our rear view, and Oklahoma still a half day away. Approaching Amarillo, running low on gas and coffee, a hand-painted sign roared Cadillac Ranch and pointed an arrow to the right. We peered across the April corn seedlings to a frontage road. There, in the afternoon sun, a row of chariots rose like gods out of the Texas dirt. We took the off-ramp and circled back, parking our Camry at a humble distance. I wished we had a beer or a whiskey or any sacrament as we approached this hallowed ground. I'd seen it once on 60 Minutes in the 70s, heard Springsteen sing about it in the 80s, and there, in 2008, I was minutes away from touching this legendary piece of public art. What struck me first was the silence of these 10 caddies perched like sphinx in the middle of this field. We didn't know they were buried at the same angle as the Great Pyramids of Egypt. We didn't know it was originally a tribute to the evolution of the great Cadillac tail fin. We only knew what we saw, which was 10 big old dinosaurs buried nose down in the dirt. We marveled at the modern hieroglyphics spray-painted over every exposed inch of metal. We climbed inside one and left an offering of our initials on the dash. With the reverence of monks, we departed back to our own car, our own road, our own journey toward home. But I still remember those caddies every time I pass a junkyard or hear Bruce singing about them on the radio. Cadillac, Cadillac, long and dark, shiny and black. And then lastly, a love poem, because it's tomorrow, right? This one, again, is in the book, Fledgling Poem. If you believe a sonnet can be a map to the heart, and that a lifetime of love started with you kissing me, then you might also know the sublime magic of the full moon shining down on us, walking in the silvery light. You know the way my heart skips when it sees your smile, hears your laugh, wakes up in the night, then rests peacefully until morning with your breathing. You might feel each day and night fly by like a falcon returning to roost on the falconer's arm, outstretched but not reaching, holding tight in its glove, trusting each moment as it lands at home in the bond they share. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Now it's my honor to introduce Ashanti Files. Ashanti Files is a nurse by day and writer by night. She's a loving mother and wife whose passion is writing about her perspective as a woman of color. Her first full-length poetry book, Woven, Perspectives of a Black Woman, was published in 2018. Please welcome Ashanti Files.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for thinking of me. I'm going to read two selections from my book, Woven Perspectives of a Black Woman, and then something a little bit newer. I
want to hear every word.
Oh, okay. The type of poetry that I do is an art called slam poetry, and it's meant to be performed. So I'm going to perform it for you. It's a little bit different from what the other poets here have been doing, but I hope that you enjoy this and this little bit of our culture. This one is called Epitome. I take a deep breath to calm myself because you are the example of ignorance and anger of which this world has more than ample. I inhale and I remember who I am as well as you, a black middle-class woman versus the man who bleeds red, white, and blue. Blood that was spilled came from brown people too, yet I exhale, remaining seated while you do you, clenching your fists and pacing as you refuse to drop the conversation where the topic is obviously too hot, too hard-headed to be taught. Although I yearn to teach, the rhetoric is hateful despite my attempt to beseech you to drop it. This hot topic just made you my foe. And that's the way this country goes, back and forth with two-party hate in a system that long ago obliterated our chance of unity. So soon we will see how quickly words become actions, how party lines put us into factions, warring on opposite sides for the same thing, the right to live freely and be treated as a human being. But all I'm seeing is another white man telling me why he deserves to belittle who I am and use code words like inner city to invoke pity from the other rural bystanders. The slander is neither hidden nor regretted, because your white privilege alone means you have been vetted. And everything I say, you instantly deny is true. My very being is a contradiction to everything you thought was possible. Yes, I continue to sit patiently while you stand, pacing back and forth and clenching your hands, demonstrating to all that you can truly be exactly who I was afraid you were, the epitome. As a nurse, one of my passions is mental health and mental health awareness. And so this one is titled Pill. I feel my anxiety rise, and it takes all of my strength to survive and then thrive in a world of gray. Or I could separate the night from the day. Say it's just one more pill, one more tablet that'll help me to feel like a better version of me. Because who needs to cope with anxiety and feelings to flee from my sweet husband's touch because that spot triggers me and I clutch at my throat and my stomach is suddenly sore, recollections of nights spent on a damp floor. But hey, I could take one more pill, a capsule that'll help me to feel like a better version of me. Just a little more numb and less silly, touchy-feely. I blankly stare at my kids, hoping they don't do like mommy did and run far, far away, because they can't stand the darkness that they face every day by simply looking into the mirror. See that pill? It makes that glass look clearer. Sure, it stifles my creativity, but hell, at least my daughters get to see me and I can smile all day because that pill took mommy's feelings away, along with mommy's passions and bad dreams. I mean, who needs feelings when we have pills? And tablets and capsules, from Cymbalta to Celebrex and Paxil. Why feel? Why feel? Why fear? Just take this pill and it all disappears behind my toddler's eyes, searching mine. If she asks me, am I happy? I feel my anxiety rise. I'm not naked, but I am afraid to live in a world clouded by gray. Or I can separate the night from the day and take just one more pill. So something that I'm currently working on is a revamp of the For Colored Girls novel. It was originally in a work by Shane, and Linda Kwan actually won a grant for us to transform our works into a graphic novel, so please stay tuned for that. So this is a piece from that compilation of work, and it is called Fragile. I remind myself that I am not fragile. People will not tiptoe around me. My blackness is on full display to complement my femininity. I attempted to understand you. I put my heart and my mind in your shoes, and now my heart is pounding out of sync to the rhythm of my blues. I am not supposed to be fragile. I am not expected to cry, but instead to throw back my shoulders and hold my head unusually high. I am not considered fragile. I am the epitome of strength, careful to disregard the length of my pain and expect it to be perfect. You seldom allow me the privilege of a mistake. I did everything in the right order. You never wondered if it would make my mind break, to split my consciousness into two, the black, the female, in addition to the wife, the mother, the nurse, the friend, the sister to a brother, and each title adds a brick to my back just as I attempt to swim. I am unable to be fragile, even though my patience is wearing thin, of being expected to get over the past, expected to hide my pain. I pray that if I am reincarnated, Lord, please don't make me a black woman again, because I desperately need to be fragile, to be handled with tenderness and love, to have my very soul caressed, and be praised, for I am capable of such amazing and beautiful things. I need to be able to fully express my pain instead of brushing it aside and acting like everything is okay. White girls want to be fragile like bombs, not fragile like the flowers. Black girls aren't given the choice because our feelings simply don't matter. We are, and we're never expected to be fragile. I have one more short one. If my phone will cooperate. I apologize. Oh no, now I can't find it. This is exactly what I hoped would happen. It was a new one. Let's see if I can find it in a different place. Thank God for technology.
Let's give her one whole minute. You guys.
Oh, it won't
Turn
take
to
me that.
someone next to you. Introduce yourself to someone you don't know. Make a new friend here tonight.
Thank you, Rachel.
Build poetry community.
Okay, I found it. Did take a full minute. Thank you, guys. I appreciate that. Okay. I know, I was just going to walk off the stage. Okay, so I wrote this one for my daughter, Camille. She was reading A Wrinkle in Time in school, and I read it with her and my mom, my mother-in-law, and then we all saw the movie together, and we were like, yes, awesome. This is called Wrinkle. You talk about a wrinkle in time, but there is a wrinkle in generations where women hate each other and forget that they have birthed nations, where men only think about the next time when you can come over so he can get in. Let's talk about a wrinkle in our culture. Language and history stolen, people considered less than vultures. You want to see a wrinkle in time, but I want to talk about a wrinkle in space, where if another white person expect me to move, I'm going to be my mama's disgrace. Wrinkle in times, a wrinkle in families, count each other's sins much more than them calories. Talk about a wrinkle in time where there's a crevice in education. Black women know the most, but we paid less than the alimony he pays to his immigrant wife. Counting immigrants and killing back lives, you counting the wrinkles while I'm numbering the pleats. Tell me, have many black women hold congressional seats? It's in standard education to teach about wrinkles in time, but perhaps we should consider who's going to be writing the very next lines of our history, very soon to be our past. Because as Grandma once told me, with the hot iron, wrinkles won't last. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ashanti. Now I would love to introduce our next poet, Michael Pearson, who lives and works in central Illinois. That's all I know.
All right, is this good? Yes. Sound people?
Yes.
Okay.
I will do this at some point.
I won't see you. I go into my own world. It's spectrum time up here. All right, this is spagyric postillioning, or butt stuff with Doubting Thomas, the Walmart edit. What plucky promiscuities, for what Nelly spirits admire, ambitious misprise. O thou, whatever festicus title suit thee, conversant, I'm sure, of the homuncular queen. And noted is thy clap, and teminently aphetic from the flagrant ditch you swink the filthy. You're neither pottering nor lame, vericun nor afraid. Anubis is, says, Whistler. Yamas says, I wasn't making gestures. Every other psychopomps says, I was making paintings. Let me compare you to a bent balloon. You are more driving and more insistent. Coiled sun heats the entombed oozing peaches, and summertime hates Hermes' persistence. This did not work for the flesh narcs, death gods leave in pieces. The big butch homies cackle, let there be sparkle. And there was sparkle. Apotropaic fetish makes me grit my teeth and cry with cleft metonymy, shuddering at the wrist. Jesus means mouthing, means milking, makes mourning, means risk, means glitter, means makeup, means fringe. Arthur Rimbaud mumbles, I'm a pretty hyena, so there, repeats each morning, for each going down on freely gushing stumps, stems, stacks, and rage. Make an offering of roses, sheep's milk, and honeycomb at your altar, clad in cut-off hermetically purple jeans and intoxicated on Incredible Hulk's 3 jiggers of argent vive, a metage of sulfur oil, and a unity of fermented acetones and a salt-rimmed aludel. Never, bloody cowards, never. Ross from Friends. Paralyzed by fire in the belly. Ross from Friends wearing nothing. I'm pooping water. Ross from Friends wearing nothing but a Phrygian cap, making one's burn from a bit of fluff out a bud of promise. Ross from Friends being occupied wearing nothing but a Phrygian cap, gripping his wand. Spurge one's filthhood. Me sporting Rachel's crop bob from Friends' haircut. Yes. Me sporting Rachel's crop bob from Friends' haircut. The antagonist manumitted all transactions. Ross from Friends wearing nothing but a Phrygian cap, juggling cups and balls till doomsday. Me sporting Rachel's crop bob from Friends' haircut, tightening an Ouroboros belt. Placket holes are always only ceremonial. Ross from Friends wearing nothing but a Phrygian cap, juggling cops and balls, taking a stab at manifesting and cultivating his desires. I've always fettled them as such. Ross from Friends wearing nothing, a subsessive, fleers, third fistulus of anal Isis. The bitter gloat beat in my cloaca, a delicious total encounter. Chemical ululation of the insufficiency and all that shall shed blood. We shall it up to cure the down there. Institute constantly pranking it, my Duke's master 4 cardinal motions, inward, outward, rolling, shaking, as an unceasingly monstrous child snaking out, not realizing or utilizing the infinite amounts of possible movement in the space between, wrap my wand about my body. Feculent petroleum ointment and the thing itself. This isn't an expression of a real thing. This is the thing itself. To be sure, dim the power of protest, it would help me, and it is no doubt time someone held my candle with what I'm feeling for my inability to disdetermine finger play. Now fibulate your C. diff hands over my face until I'm inoubliable. Now rame noddingly under my hap harlot. I'm gonna wrestle you to the ground. Any verdancy to stick and quit is feculent with an antiomorphism. Yesterday, when I was describing a need to arrange my appetencies in direct, let go, Hulk, pull out, Hulk, you said we'd talk competently and number later. I thought I should teach you how to sacrifice, like taking a stranger's gurgings coyly behind trees. I'm sick of being gracious and constrained, especially with conspicuous adolescence. I need to be undivided, more analytic, less tabid and shitty. There was one who untapped overflowed my gutter until I could gorge no more, kept seeding my couch, and years later I still flipped the cushion to add to the honey spots when I'm single-handed. The owl put on the pork pie hat. Witches were talking. No one understood what they were croaking. Everyone was closed, and I couldn't get the dagger out of my face. Patibulate me in my bottles with one foot stuck in lace. Here there's space between my legs and more milk on the floor. This is the way it is, the way it always is. How holy your ear. I tried not to surrender and anyway, a promise, another promise, with my fists closed tight, gargling salt acid, waving white wings, I take the root in my mouth. This all happened without a word, both hermaphrodite and chaste. The seed becomes the tree, the clay becomes the pot, the wool becoming the garment. Our only reunion of self and other must pass through the gates of death. I have some sores. The purpose of the union is not an orgasmic authentication. A cyst has appeared in my mouth. Whether the other is an other or your own body hardly matters, prevents me from talking, but transcendental sodomy sounds pretty dope. Our story of the first time another man delights in the best part. Okay, my turn. Invest with the body, dear. Finger spit. Your own actions, 3 at a time. Finger spit. The I am someone who doesn't leave their house. The I am someone who doesn't write their blog. The I am someone who can fit whole fists anywhere. Petite machine. Say, okay, my turn, finger spit. Say, okay, my turn, finger spit. Lower self. Emergent spunk, go to the library. Made iron, gain knowledge. Conserved phosphorus, sippity of ease. Higher self. I dance a dance between a pair of sheets with metalheads who oscillate their hips after successful cervical disectomies. We float hair, talk magical taste, finger spit, eat frozen pizza. Some more, okay, finger spit. Send my power forth to eat more power in the name of quiet erasing. Dear finger spit, my turn, okay. All right. So I didn't know I was going to read this. So this is Vim Vendors Vendors. It's from a Facebook thread. It's a group project by Gary Canoni, arranged by me. Authored by Rachel Allen, Eric Nuisance Boy Anderson, Gary Canoni, Jeff Carter, Paul Cherwick, Atha Clark, Andrew Falkowski, Mark Fisher, Martin Fox, Mark Allen Erbst, Michael Pearson, Estee Pierce, Joel Score, and Albert Stabler. All right. Raise, wins, Bjork, Spork, share, raise, stings, Vims, Vens, Bill Gates, Brooke, Shields, Charles Ray, Nick Cades, Shakespeare's Peers, Vim, Vendors, Chins, Two Chains, Alice, Cats, Charles Ray, David Burns, Doc Darts, Hog Darts, Hamilton, Hans, Hakes, Handshakes, Jason's Roads, Jasper Johns, Joan Van Arcs, Lena Horns, Lizzo's Gizmos, Marky Marks, Nietzsche's Peaches, Paul Rhodes, Butt Rub, Robert Plants, Romers, Ron Paul's Grey Paul, Snoop Dogg's Poop Blog, Sun Tzu, Zootsu, Vim, Vendors, Vims, Bo Derek, Burt Ward's Cutting Boards, Charles Ray, Charles Sabaros, Chris Hazler, Will Ways, Chris Marker, Don Rickles, Pickles, Hull, Hausers, Trousers, Jane Fonda's Fauna, J. Roach's Life Coach, John Lennon's Linens, Les Nessman's Best Man, Little Wayne's Mary Jane, Philip K. Dick's Calix, Robert Culp's Big Gulp, Tom Cruise's Bruises, Tom Cruise's Cruises, Tom Waits, Ickle Waits, Willem Dafoe's Foes, Vim Vendors, Adam Ants, Aunties Pants, Al Pacino's Chinos, Army Archers, Ben Stiller's Ben Tiller, Charles Ray, Dennis Hopper, Dick Durbin, Slick Merkins, Dick Van Dyke, Dick, Donald Judd's Bottled Blood, Donald Judd's Solid Thud, Donnelly Most, Tawny Ghost, Eartha Kitt's Greatest Hits, Ed Richet's Red Toupees, Elmer Fudd, Sticky Buds, Elton John's Peloton, Goldie Hawn's Gold Upon, Gordon Jumps, Baby Bump, Jack Kirby's Black Derbies, General Noir's Mead Memoir, Carl Apples, Lucy Lippert's Slipperds, Matt Granding's Back Straining, Minnie Pearl's Skinny Squirrel, Namjoon Pike's Brand New Type, Paul Ryan's Pal Ryan, Paul Simon, Small Hyman, Peter Falk's Artist Talks, Peter Sellers, Rob Reiner's Red Shiner, Roland Bart's Molten Fart, Shirley Temple's Sigmund Freud's Almond Joy, Sigmund Freud's Psychic Void, Soloist, Steely Dan's Creepy Van, Steve Moffat's Sleeve Tartan, Tony Smith's Phony Bits, Val Kilmer's Pal Wilbur, Wayne Gretzky's Lame Jet Ski, Vim Vendors, Suspenders, Alec Lifeson's Ex-Wife's Son, Charles Ray's Ray, Donald Trump's McDonald's Rump, Gil Scott Heron's Heron Scott, Jack London's London Calling, Jocks Rivette's Stock Cigarettes, John Waters' Secret Daughter, Christy McNichols, Kurt Schwitter's Pervert Sweaters, Mick Jagger's Hetty Lager, Patrick Kane's Electric Plane, Pete Shelley, Stephanie's Kelly, Ray Davies, Baby Scabies, Richard Prince's Butchered Prince, Ricky Skaggs, Grocery Bags, Susie Kurt's Shoe Inserts, Vim Vendors, Chicken Tenders, Vim Vendors, Gender Benders, Andre Breton's Laundry Croutons, Andre Breton's Tawdry Breton, Andy Warhol's Manly Warhol, Barbara Kruger's Hardened Boogers, Bernie Sanders' Salamanders, Burhol Brecht's Federal Intellect, Willie Ocean's Sowing Oceans, Busby Berkeley's Herky Jerky, Katie Nolan, Shady Bowling, Charles Ray's Races, Chubby Checkers, Chinese Checkers, Darby Crashes, Sharpie Lashes, Dr. Johnny Fever's Fever, Douglas Hoover's Brand New Hoover, Eddie Cochran's Yeti's Cochran, Gary Canoni's Cannoli, George Ramiro's Orange Sombrero, Gerhard Richter's Rock Art Sphincter, Horatio Sands' Comic Sans, Jacques Derrida's Mock Dairy Dad, Jacques Lacan's Pocket Full of Ham, Jamie Farr's Emotional Scars, John Denver's Decomposed Member, Jorge Pardo's Snoring Cardinals, Kathy Ackers, Daddy's Crackers, Kathy Ackers, Money Backers, Kurt Schwitter's Kurt Twitter, Lady Gaga's Lengthy Raga, Larry Hagman's Weary Backman, Leslie Nielsen's Lousy Nielsen, Lionel Richie's Spinal Stitching, Louise Lowler's Booty Collars, Lucy Lippert's Juicy Zippers, Magic Johnson's Magic Johnson, Mini Driver's Mini Driver, Norman Mailer's Mailman Norman, Encore Auro's Wonky Aura, Paris Hilton's Pairs with Stilton, Preston Sturge's Messed Up Urges, Randy Bachman's Antique Walkmans, Ricky Swallow's Sticky Tyler, Ronald Reagan's Romold Raygun, Romy Carty's Famous Father, Sally Struthers' Silly Brother, Salma Hayek's Balmy Kayak, Sean Hannity's Blown Manatee, Sergeant Slaughter's Daughter's Auger, Shelley Duvall's Smelly Pool Hall, Sissy SpaceX Missing Paycheck, Sissy SpaceX Crazy Lasek, Stanley Kubrick's Manly Rubric, Teddy Kennedy's Home Remedies, Uma Thurman's Human Thermos, Willy Wonka's Mini Tonko, Vim Vendors Wine Bartender Tim, Zarathustra's Karma Sutra, Abraham Lincoln's LinkedIn Login, Agnes Varda's Hoggus Regarded, Amy Poehler's Impacted Molar, Anderson Cooper's Pooper Scooper, Aunt Jemima's Stable Angina, Charles Race's Race, Christopher Plummer's Sister's Hummer, David Lee Ross Potato League Broth, Eli Wallach's Jackson Pollock, Felix Gutierrez's God is Harry, Hedy Lamar's Autonomous Car, Lenny Bruce's Many Cabooses, Lydia Lunch's Midday Brunches, Lydia Lunch's Wild Hunches, Rahm Emanuel's Ramen Manual, Willem de Kooning's Gentle Spooning, Vim Vendors Fender Bender Menders, A. Bromson's Grave Johnson's from 8 Oxen, Barack Obama's Mama's Pajamas, Charles Race's Race, Denny Schechter's Media Sector, Dorothy Gish's Tropical Fishes, Hattie McDaniel's Batty McSpaniel, Helen Frankenthaler's Prankenstaller, Jessica Tandy, Butterscotch Candy, Missy Elliott's Sassy Etiquette, Rosemary Trockle's Legal Debacle, Sunny Venice's Bunny Menaces, Tommy Mottola's Swami's Granola, Vlad the Impaler's Asthma Inhaler, Will Rieger's Feverishly Filled Beaver, Vim Vendors No Money Down Cash Lenders, Charles Race's Raised Rays, Gary Canoni's Fran Antonioni, May Angelou's Electric Boogaloo, Millie Vanilli's Manila Gorilla, Vim Vendors Trenders Slim Tenders Are rendered, Angela Lansbury's Panama Hat queries, Arthur Fonzarelli's martyred Gonzo Belli, Charles Ray's raised Ray, races raised Rays, Giorgio Moroder's orgy noise decoder, John Travolta's revolting La Traviata, Placido Domingo's passed away flamingo, Salvatore Allunde's Hyundai salvage door, Wim Wenders mit dem ultra kurze Wellensenders, Cedric the Entertainer's eccentric mansplainers, Charles Ray's raised Ray, races raised Rays, Dennis Farina's dentist Bernini's patina, John Rader's bitter babysitter's kitty litter, Wim Wenders censored grammatical sim defender, Charles Ray's raised Ray, raises raised Rays, Lawrence Weeder's more advanced steamer keeps door vents cleaner, Piero Paolo Pasolini's favorite film by Fellini, Shania Twain's private planes, toilet drains, fecal remains, Wim Wenders built-in public defender begins blenders, Charles Ray's raised Ray, races raised Rays. Wim Wenders pigskin pretenders has been canine dispenser. Charles Ray's raised Ray, raised Rays. Philip Batiste, Little Feet, never failing at high wire treats. Wim Wenders, matrilineal Akins Community Center sin. Charles Ray's raised Race, raised Race. Mark Fisher's dark fishers are far grimmer garnishes for stark fixtures. Wim Wenders, Timitin tenders, grimly sent anglers, cherubim slurs. Charles Ray's raised Racing Ray, races raised Racing Race. John Ritter's babysitters, bitter letter, ham-fistedly blacklisting shitty kitty litters. Wim Wenders surrendered caudal fin, mandolin, snappily subtracts phantom limbs, bartered members. Charles Ray's raised Racing Race, raised Racing Ray, races raised Racing Race, raised Racing Rays, races raised Racing Rays, raised Racing Rays. Wim Wenders vendors are predatory lenders with unassigned genders that go on benders and listen to the pretenders while watching EastEnders. Charles Ray's raised Raising Rays, raised Racing Ray, raised Racing Rays, raised Racing Rays, races Racing raised Ray. Wim Wenders covers the Pretenders in his cover band, the Wim Wenders Pretenders with their Smash Elvis cover, Return to Sender Wim Wenders. That's it.
Thank you very much, Michael. Am I mistaken, or did I hear my name in that? I thought so. I am. Famous as the button is famous to the buttonhole. Next, I would love to introduce James Englehart. James has written poems that have appeared in the North American Review, Hawk and Handsaw, Terrain.org, Painted Bride Quarterly, Fourth River, and many others. His Echo Poetry Manifesto is The Language Habitat, and his first book, Bone Willow, is available from Boreal Books, an imprint of Red Hen Press. He is an acquisitions editor at the University of Illinois. Please join me in welcoming James to read his poems.
Good evening. How's that for everybody? It's a little bit weird because it comes off of that side. And so all y'all who went before me, that was amazing because it's really distracting. Bone Willows is a book of poems that's set in Alaska. I lived in Alaska for 5 years, so I'm going to read a couple of poems from the book, which is available back there. You can find me afterwards if you'd like. And it seems appropriate suddenly for the weather, so there you go. The first poem is called Auf Eis. Auf Eis is what happens when there's a frozen river, and then there's a little break, and there's a lot of back pressure, and water starts coming up and then freezing and coming up and freezing, and it can build these huge structures, and it can also be very dangerous if you're not expecting it. Auf Eis. New friends push up from the table, leaving the last of the mountain goat sausage and pasta on our fiesta plates. We tell the stories of lives we've constructed, storylines as comfortable as a bowl of hot grains and a mug of coffee with a spoon of sugar. The breakup came around breakup years ago, one of them said, the biologist or the chemist. But the language was new, or maybe the hour was old, the bottles of wine deeper than I remember, enough to hide a narwhal, that Arctic unicorn, or the thin surprise of an aurora whipping as silent as fate, as brilliant as an angel over the blooms of snow gentled onto the dormant twigs. Breakup is coming, the other one says, and I can't look at my wife or his as the crescent moon rises like a serpent. Wintering in the place. She wakes to a day that seems colder, her hips stiff, the sun shifted some small degree, rising a little north, gaining a little more height, like a pale handle held at this angle, now that. A cup of tea, a short morning, a walk around the neighborhood for health, yes. So when her daughter calls, she'll hear the shock of the day's chill across the ether to someplace corn-stalked. She knows the ravens don't wait for her, croak and would block their calls for someone else, not her. They do not wait for her and her fur anorak. She brings along no food for birds, no food from her. A heavy spatter of snow splashing as a ptarmigan pulls hard into the air like a pear tossed from one hand, settling quickly into the next, a safe bank a few yards away. Woman and bird square off the block. 5 left turns, then 6, black tail tips, muck-luck shuffle, mittens on doorknob, and why not think of chicken, a nice roast, a phone call, quick sundown, and long starlight. Okay, so now these are the newer ones. Magics. Oh yes, I am the wizard at the edge of town. You know, I don't tell everyone. Too many people would come to me. I should be taller, one will say. Fill my well with beer from another. I cannot do these things. I can put wine in a glass or tea in a mug. I can help you find the best words to tell a new lover when the last light leaves the sky and summer night pulls you toward each other. Given time, I can heal a wound with poultices and bandages. And I can write just like a doctor so that you can have a few extra days of vacation that, even in your backyard, will feel like warm sand underfoot. But first, let me buy these candles and oils. Then I will give you a blessing that will make your cash drawer balance, even if you keep a little extra for yourself. Candles. They fret, rolling around in drawers, stacked in cardboard and linen closets, jammed onto metal spikes, and they yearn to be touched with fire. And it feeds, the fire does, on air, on wax, the slow food of the cotton wick, so you can see, or cook, or bewitch 1,000 moths, and they will die like 1,000 small suns on the back deck, as the moon winks at you from clouds, and the night asks where you keep the candles, because it will be dark a long time, and the air is cold, and the only hunger you can feel is all the hungers of a long life fed a little wax, a little cotton, a spark of wanting just a little more. Testing the apple. This one, I actually should have started the first poem by saying that the breakup is a whole thing that happens in Alaska, but we'll skip that for now. This next poem has a book in it called Our Daily Bread. Is anybody familiar with this little thing? No? Ah, okay, there's a couple, right? So it's a sort of daily devotional you get like sent to you once a month. I grew up in an evangelical family, and this was a sort of ritual that we did. Testing the apple, you'll find that I'm perhaps not that guy anymore. Sunday morning, while my mother read Our Daily Bread, we were all, father, brother, ready for a full day at church, school, sermon, choir. I sat dazed. I looked at them, thinking only of last night's condoms, the small love bites and compliments. What is the body but a recording of all that can be said and all that cannot? The glide into adulthood, the mysteries our families kept, couldn't articulate, marked somewhere on our parents' bodies, invisible as a vasectomy scar. So much to learn in a small car on an autumn night, the cul-de-sac paved but unlit, the choked cries we don't admit to anyone. And then there we are with bright love dumb in our eyes and a groan in our throats, and we don't know what to ask for except this. Please, more of this. And this next one, this is your 2-poem warning. This next one is the one that was also here at the, so thank you for that. Sophie. What we wanted was to be drawn to each other, to feel the dust of our bodies condense until we were planets in an orbital plane, unable to escape each other, and we would be content to settle deeply into our hatchback seats and spend Saturday mornings at the farmers' markets among the other planets and their circling moons, and afternoons at libraries or art museums, like the one we went to where you nursed your son under a canvas of the Virgin Mary. But we have remained water, and so we flow, downriver, across separate landscapes. And in the short nights of summer, I watch my daughter chase the cold suns of fireflies. Working the claim. So I lived in Fairbanks. Fairbanks is it's a gold mining town. That's why it's there. People, when they jump up, and then you have probably seen, or you may have seen, a variety of reality TV shows that are based around this, and they're hilarious. And then Fred's is Fred Meyer's. It's a Pacific Northwest grocery store, kind of. Yes, some of you nod, some of you don't, but that's, yeah. So, but you need to know Fred's. Working the claim. The cashier at Fred's tells the woman at the card machine that her hair's almost back, but the boyfriend still isn't. A pack of buns goes over the scanner, then the bag of chips. You should come to the party, the food woman says. It'll be fun, and Jackie will be so happy to see you again. Spring flowers crowd the aisles near the door, and someone has set a lily in a Rockstar can next to the register. The flower stirs a bit as the receipts and coupons ratchet out. The cashier hands over the long, looped ribbons. I might do that, she says. And you can almost see the pick scars, the places where blood was mined for information and replaced with a burn that traveled to her eyes and is just now starting to settle out like gold flakes in a pan. It's spring, she says, as she pulls the bar off, slides it along the track above the belt. It's spring. And I'm still here, ain't I? Thanks.
Thank you, James. Our next poet is Mariana do Barambo. Mariana is a Fulbright scholar and a poet and performer from Brazil. Her poetry and performances have elements from African philosophy, Afro-Brazilian culture, language, and dance. It's my pleasure to present to you Mariana do Barambo.
Hello. So I'm from Brazil.
Mariana, speak very loudly.
Okay. I'm from Brazil, and my first language is not English. So I'm going to recitate some poems in Portuguese and English and mix both languages. But I would like to start with one in Portuguese, okay? Then you can, I would like to introduce myself speaking Portuguese. And this poem I wrote after Marielle Franco, that was an Afro-Brazilian and lesbian activist and politician, was murdered in Brazil in 2018.
Cabelo crespo, buceta e melanina. Eu sou seu pior pesadelo na forma feminina. Sou Marielle e também Elis Regina. E na minha retaguarda tem mais 3 milhões de mina. Feministas negras ou panafricanistas, nós é tudo treteira, você nem imagina. Tamo na fúria e nossa fé não se abala, e é na força de Dandara que nós vamos avançar. Contra o Estado, o Exército e a Polícia, eu não tô vendo outra saída, a não ser também me armar. É uma questão de legítima defesa,
Chega, 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 chega. Vocês não vão mais nos matar. Agora é guerra. Yansan vem nos valer, nos dá força e poder. Nós vamos fazer justiça. Justiça preta não é cega nem omissa, não é feita com polícia, é feita com benzedeira, é feita com capoeira, vai ser feita com peixeira e até com escopeta. Você não disse que meu Deus era capeta? Você não viu nada. A coisa vai ficar preta. Já fiz até minha lista branca e nela só tem bambambam, que fechou com o Tio Sam, agir como um Ku Klux Klan, mas finge que é pai e pã. Meu treino de guerra foi feito no dia a dia, andando pelas vielas ou indo na padaria. Sempre fui suspeita, sempre fui objeto, nunca estive segura, nem meus filhos, nem meus netos. É legítima defesa. Chega mais, negrada, chega. Okay, and when I try to translate it, and I am not going to translate everything, this same poem stays like that. Curly hair, pussy, and melanin. I'm your word nightmare when it comes to feminine. I'm Marielle, the black lesbian Brazilian. And as my background, I have more than 300 million. Black feminists or Pan-Africanists. Yes, we like to fight, and we didn't even start. Tamo na fúria e nossa fé não se abala, e é na força de Dandara que nós vamos avançar. Contra o Estado, o Exército e a Polícia, eu não tô vendo outra saída a não ser também me armar. I'm with Elis Regina, I'm with Nina Simone. Brazil, Haiti, and US, stop shooting us. We are done. I call Yansan, female black goddess of war. Yansan, vem nos valer, nos dá força e poder, nós vamos fazer justiça. Justiça preta não é cega nem omissa, não é feita com polícia, é feita com benzedeira, é feita com capoeira, vai ser feita com peixeira e até com escopeta. Você não disse que meu Deus era capeta? Você não viu nada. A coisa vai ficar preta. To get prepared to this war, I didn't need to go much far. Walking on my neighborhood to go home or grab food, I have always been a suspect, treated like an object. I have never been safe, nor my kids or my mates. Brazil, Haiti, or US. It's about self-defense. Okay. Now I'm going to do another one that a friend, an American friend, his name is Mark, helped me to translate it. And it's about being a black woman in academy or university. And they lived happily ever. Happily after what? Happiness for who? In this unquestionable atmosphere of accomplishments, there are so many opportunities. I can neither complain about life nor have time to celebrate it, even to read Fanon. My thinking is still so colonized that I forget my desires. I ignore and mistreat my own body, forcing myself daily. And possibly, I will not have retirement. These days seem so short. I can't do poetry anymore. I don't have poetry anymore. When my cell phone wakes me at 5 in the morning, I've been running behind since yesterday, because I didn't read the classics nor the post-colonial studies. I still haven't learned French, and my English is still mediocre. These days seem so short. Yesterday, I couldn't even say goodnight to my kids. And Alva, the morning star, my grandmother, is no longer here to give me that hug, that dismantled time, to remind me of the importance of unhurried steps. Grandfather Agnello used it to make me laugh. Grandfather Gilberto to tell me stories. Just like my seamstress grandmother Hilda, creating so much beauty with only scraps. These days seem so short. I haven't played berimbau in months. It remains for me to hypothesize the power effect it might have within me when, after the vigorous ringing of wood on metal, the resonance vibrating from the gourd, traveling down the tension of the wire, emerging as sound. These days seem so short. Would someone please explain to me what this extraterritorialism means? These days seem so short, and when my estrogen levels drop, everything hurts. This day seems so short, and I feel so tired. Now I'm going to do one more in Portuguese, okay? Eu vou falar de comprimido que é bastante popular. Tem menina de 14 cansada de usar. Põe no corpo feminino. Vai na boca e na vagina. Depois vai para o hospital, morrendo de hemorragia. Se você não entendeu, eu posso explicar. Ninguém fica feliz quando tem que abortar, mas é foda. É embaçado ter um filho e se a maior perspectiva é um salário mínimo. Trampar de faxina com uniforme humilhante, conviver com burguesinha que te olha arrogante, quem julga e condena diz, não falta informação. Falar dos outros é fácil. Zé Povinho é campeão. Isso sem falar do maldito do machismo. Cara, não quer camisinha só por capricho. Às vezes faz chantagem e pressão na hora H. Com certeza outro babaca que não vai pagar PA. Seria o mínimo. Um filho pede muito mais. Estrutura emocional para viver e crescer em paz. E aí vem o Citotec, num mundo de hipocrisia. E o médico playboy olha feio e discrimina. Durante o procedimento quer dar lição de moral. Alienado, não sabe que o país é desigual. Doutor, se eu tivesse metade das oportunidades que você teve, eu ficava com o bebê, seu animal. And now that you've learned a little bit of Portuguese, I'm going to read one that I don't know if it's exactly a poem, but it's the first thing I did really using the two languages together. So I hope you can understand something. Entre semáforos e buzinas, and this one I wrote when I first came to the US and I went to visit New York, and it was about all these feelings I was having for being here and experiences together. So, entre semáforos e buzinas, alguém grita, "This is the land of opportunity." Eu torço o nariz. Na próxima esquina, uma voz afetuosa e sincera reafirma, "You are in New York. Everything can happen. Who knows?" Eu tento disfarçar um olhar incrédulo de desdém que me toma, não pela ideia em si, but do you really believe in that? No próximo quarteirão, alguém me elogia kindly. "Your hair is so beautiful." E na rua de trás, "I love your outfit. This skirt is not from here, is it?" Eu respondo que a saia é do Brasil. mesmo sabendo que, na verdade, ela provavelmente foi made in China. E eu saio toda confiante, achando que o meu inglês está indo bem. Até o momento em que preciso comprar comida. E a atendente fala uma vez, e eu, excuse me? E ela fala de novo, e eu, sorry? Ela repete pela terceira vez, e eu sou tomada por um misto de vontade de rir e de apologize. Can you speak a little bit slowly, please? Ai, ai. Ela só queria saber se era for here or to go. Eu brigo comigo mesma quando me apaixono pela vista da Brooklyn Bridge e tiro selfies com a Statue of Liberty. Is this city indeed that beautiful? Or is it just the only standard of beauty when it comes to cities? Eu não sei, mas falando em cidade bonita, todo mundo me pergunta sobre o Rio de Janeiro. E é difícil explicar e entender que eu estou aqui, mas nunca conheci o Rio, porque sim, gente, a passagem é cara. E euzinha, que não acredito nessa conversa de que todo mundo tem chance aqui, yeah, sometimes I take myself wondering what would happen if, who knows? Thank you.
Thank you, Madriana. I'm so grateful that we've been able to witness how flexible language can be and the beauty of the language that we have with us in this town. I'm going to add one short poem to this evening's fair, if I can find it. Some of you may have heard this poem. I call it The Magic of a Poem. Lettery crumbs litter my shirt. I'm on the bus eating poems from a bag. They are soft and chewy like dried shrooms, lightly salted to taste. The girl in the seat across from me wants to try one, I can tell. I smile at her and offer the bag. She reaches in with delicate pinching fingers and pulls out something by Pushkin, bites right into it without hesitation. Before long, Russian words are dripping down her chin. She grins darkly, tasting the sorcery of snowy trees. Thank you all for coming. I really appreciate your support. And let's hear one last hand for all of our poets tonight. Thank you.